It's been great. It's been freeing. It's been, I mean, look, I feel like I'm in a unique position because I do a lot of different things. And I feel like sometimes I get nervous with that. Let me just give you an example. I told you boxing broadcasting is my true goal. Right now, I've proven jack of all trades, maybe master of none. But I can do play by play. I can do color commentary. I can do in ring interviewing. I can do the host desk. I can do it all. Sometimes that gets to me in a nervous way of like, man, maybe I'm not focusing too much on one area. But eventually I woke up enough to realize that, like, what am I aiming for? Well, I'm aiming to not give up on the second chance in life that I talked about. I have to max this out. I have to find out how great I can be. But I'm also trying to be the best, most well-rounded person that whatever situation you plug me into, I'm going to shine. I mean, there are times there's a word in this industry called vamping. It's when you're on camera and there's a delay or something that was off script and suddenly you've got to fill time. Let me give you a perfect example. Luke Thomas and I hosting in last year in New York, the Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia kickoff press conference in New York. And, you know, we've got, okay, they say, all right, you guys are going to sit down, you're going to pump up the fight for 5 minutes, and then you're going to throw to the stage. And then afterwards, they'll come back to you guys. We'll do a 10-minute reaction. We'll get out of there. It's actually one of the quote unquote more easier gigs, but it's very high profile and it's fun. That day didn't turn out to be easy. Oh, we find out as they're going 5, 4, 3, 2. We got to whisper, Gervante's not ready. We have no idea when he'll be here. Go. Okay, no problem. What are we going to go? 20 minutes? That's fine. We could, this is a great fight. We could talk about it for hours. It was a 90-minute break. And, luckily I got the attention of a producer. I was like, get us some guests. Let's go bring them in. And, they cycled in a few guests, but Luke Thomas and I for 90 minutes kept the cameras occupied, kept the conversation flowing. And I remember I literally got to the point, after 90 minutes, I had nothing left to say about the fight. And at that moment, they said in our ear, he's here, throw it to the stage. And I was just like, and I'm a big boxing. I can give you stats. I can give you history. I can do anything. I was like, I have nothing left to say in that moment. So those are the unscripted moments where you've got to have it. Now, I'm lucky that I've done enough podcasts over the years that I've got that fluidity and flexibility where some guys, unfortunately, if they're teleprompter guys, they can't vamp like that. But the spirit of your question was kind of being everything at once. And when I got out of my own way, when I realized that it was time to take my mental health seriously, when I freed my mind up to be able to be the best I can be, that led me to be more who I really am, a little more comedic, sarcastic, fun. But when something like Morning Kombat came on the scene, I only started on the MMA beat with Luke because I thought, hey, F it. I'll just go out there and tell the truth, tell correct, because this thing that always haunted me, this thing that when I first started and I was on camera and I told you I was a fraud, I remember feeling like I've got to be like, when you're asked a question, I've got to be as critical but as fair as possible. So I'm giving you sort of, well, both guys have a lot of questions, blah, 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 blah. And then, sometimes I'm like, what would I say if my best friend texted me and said, who's going to win the fight on Saturday? I'd probably be like, well, look, it's an even matchup, but fighter B has a history of quitting and slowing down the stretch. So fighter A is certainly just going to wear him out. Put all your money in that direction. And at one point I started thinking, man, what if I just started telling the truth on the air? What would happen? You do it in a respectful way, but what if I just started telling my real truth? I think that helped me be in a position where who I am on Morning Kombat, the times that I get to be over the top goofy. Morning Kombat, we've been lucky because it launched on Showtime. We're not restricted language wise. We can kind of talk inappropriate to a certain degree and roll the dice. That's not necessarily who I am anymore, but it's part of my personality. You get 2 drinks in front of me and my high school friends, that's the guy I am, for better or for worse, whether my wife still likes that version of me or not. So I found that it's freeing and fun to access that. Sometimes I can get nervous, you never know who's watching. That was a crass response for me. That's not really how I'm going to talk in my personal life, at my church, when I'm picking up my kids. No, but it is a part of who we are. We're all dynamic, diverse people. So being able to pivot and swivel. Sometimes we have these Morning Kombat shoot days when we used to be on the road for Showtime Sports, that it'd be like, do 2 hours of comedy in Morning Kombat, and then the second the cameras turn off, get ready. 5 minutes later, we're going to go live. You're going to host this press conference, and then it's back to serious, and then this and that. You've got to just be flexible and roll with it. but you've got to be able to trust each version of you. I can do the very serious interview with the promoter or corporate person and do that. I also can do the ridiculousness when I have a fighter in front of me for an interview that I know is a goofball, a Derek Lewis in the UFC that I know I can reel in and have some fun with. So that has been one of the greatest revelations in my career, the freedom to unlock that. And I don't think we get here, or I get here, or even I say we, meaning sports journalism, digital coverage of it, without this huge evolution. When I started my journalism career, I was just out of high school. I was working at a local newspaper. It was literally a pay stub, meaning at the end of the day, they'd print out the paper. If there's an error on it, you'd have to print out just the letter that you needed to change the spelling and paste it over it. And then they'd take then the machine would take a picture of it, and that's how they'd make the papers. It was as old school as possible, right? Through my time, though, I've watched the evolution of the internet, right? The internet just kind of came around when I was in college in terms of everybody having it, cell phones, but even more in a digital space. Remember ESPN Page 2, the launch of Bill Simmons, where, it was all buttoned up when I was growing up. Boxing announcers wore tuxedos. Everybody talked like they were, at a sales conference. But I think people along the way, like a Bill Simmons, like a Teddy Atlas in boxing, who developed at a certain point, if I play this character, I can be even more in high demand. I've watched this business over time become more what it really is. It's entertainment. Yes, there's times to be a journalist, and I put on that hat and I take it serious, but this is entertainment. I mean, is the MMA and boxing life or death at times? Well, in boxing, for sure, right? There's deaths in the ring. It's a real byproduct. It's something that haunts us that do this for a living. We don't like to talk about it because we don't know how to talk about it. That part's real. That part's serious. But if you're watching boxing, it's because you love the entertainment. You also could be watching a scripted series on some streaming channel, right? It's what it is. So I think I was lucky enough to realize that early, embrace it, find certain mentors that I watched. I remember Dick Vitale, Bill Walton, people that are able to be legitimate, but are able to showcase their true selves like a peacock and walk around. Helps them make more money, helps keep people entertained. That's how I've sort of developed that mindset along the way. And then you just learn to trust those different sides of who you are and know the right time to bring them out.